Hi there! Welcome to Module 2 of Color Theory for Surface Pattern Design. In our past lesson, we learned about color harmony and began expanding our color schemes through tints and shades. Today, we're taking the next step. We will be working with only one color harmony, one color scheme, and we'll discover how value, along with desaturation through toning and muting, can transfer a few colors into a much richer and more expressive palette. We'll also explore how to build color hierarchy within a palette, learning how to identify focal, supporting, light, and foundation colors, so our color palettes feel intentional, balanced, and visually engaging. By the end of this lesson, you'll get to notice how a single color scheme can grow into a wide range of cohesive color palettes, each one with its own personality and purpose. So let's get started. A triadic color harmony is the relationship between three hues that are equally spaced on the color wheel. It is a color harmony principle, one of the many ways colors can interact to create a sense of balance and visual interest. As we learned in our previous lessons, a triadic color scheme is the actual selection of colors you choose based on that principle. The color wheel offers 4 color schemes following that rule. In this lesson, we'll work with value and saturation. We will learn how to reduce saturation through muting and toning down. We mute a color by adding its complementary, and we tone down a color by adding gray to it. What we will need to start working this lesson will be a color palette, a paper with a few evenly or as evenly as possible squares. Mine holds 33 squares. A brush, a jar with some water in it, a rug, or in this case I have a paper towel, and a color wheel. This color wheel, we built it from scratch on one of our previous lessons in the curriculum, and if you don't know how to craft one, I invite you to check the full playlist one in this channel, where I share my knowledge about color theory from the start. And finally, we will also need our primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. And we will place those right here. Now we have our primary colors on our color palette, and that will be the triadic color scheme we will be working with. And we will do all the extended study and color palette expansion using this color scheme. So I hope we are ready to work with our 3 colors: red, yellow, and blue. We will go ahead and place this color scheme on 6 squares of the many we have on our paper sheet. I will be using only 3, but I need you to paint 2 squares of each color. I have an extra one from one of my previous color studies I was working on a few days ago. I find this color scheme a very lovely to work with. We will be taping or gluing this color scheme on our sketchbook to know what we are working with. We can write something like Triadic color scheme and extended study to later on remember what we were working on when we look back at our sketchbook. After having our color scheme placed on our sketchbook, we will look for our color wheel, just to keep it as a guide for our next upcoming steps. We will also bring back the materials we were using, our color palette, our paper with the squares or the grid inside, the paper towel or rag, the jar with water, the brush, and we will also place some black and white on our color palette. Now we are ready to mute our colors or desaturate them using gray, and we will make gray by adding white and black. The more black you add to make your gray and use it for toning your color, the more desaturated the color will be. And the less black you add in your gray when using it to tone your color, the less desaturated your color will be. There is no right or wrong on which way you want to proceed. The amounts of gray we use also play a role. If you use more amount of gray than the hue or color you want to tone, the color will be more desaturated. And if you use less amount of gray on the hue or color you want to tone, the color will be less desaturated. And right here, right now, I feel I want my gray to be a bit darker, so I will add black to it. Now, to see the pigments in action, let's grab some of our red. Let's remember, between switching pigments, we always clean and dry our brush so there is no risk to contaminate our colors. We will add some of our gray to our red and we will mix it well. Once mixed, you will notice you got a beautiful dusty red or a dusty pink. And this happens because when we mix a hue or a color with gray, gray makes the mixing turn in a neutral outcome. Neither the gray nor the hue dominates the final result. They are not competing against each other for attention. They are not fighting to be seen. They are working in a neutral way to build a dusty manifestation of the color we chose to work with. By dusty, I mean you can see the result either as a dusty red or pink, or as a gray with red undertones. And all descriptions are valid because neither the gray nor the color cancels the other out. They remain present together. Some people in the art world feel this is a boring way of desaturating colors, but I personally love it. It allows me to have neutral options in my palettes, but again, it's all a matter of taste. We will go ahead and paint 2 squares with this lovely dusty pigment. And once we are done, we will clean and dry our brush. And now we will do the same for our yellow. We will grab some yellow, clean and dry our brush, and then grab some of our gray and mix them well. And we will obtain a neutral, beautiful, dusty yellow. Before toning our blue, we will clean and dry our brush. Once our brush is clean and dry, we will grab some blue. Then clean and dry our brush and grab some gray. And remember what we mentioned before about desaturation. It depends not only on the gray we build, but in the amount of it we use. And because we were running short on gray here, or at least me, then my blue is less desaturated. And if I want it more desaturated, I need to add more gray. And I would like to build more gray so you can see the difference. Also, when I'm rebuilding a pigment I run out of, my trick is that I build it on top of the stain it left and try to leave a bit of it to my side so I can compare what I'm building with the actual pigment I had before. And in that way, I end up almost always matching my pigments perfectly to the one I needed. And this is a beautiful version of a dusty blue. Surface designers who work for baby products and nursery wallpaper tend to work with dusty versions of the colors they use. This kind of desaturation technique works perfectly for these kind of products, or at least nowadays. Now we are ready to cut them and place them on our sketchbook. Remember that we will end up with two copies of this study. We will place one on our sketchbook and the other one will give company to the pure primary colors copy we have. We will use those later, I promise. And why we place our studies on our sketchbook is to have more visual clarity of what we are learning and how we are expanding our relationship with color. I also encourage you to add notes that will spark your memory later in the future when you come back to your sketchbook for inspiration. You could also use my notes if they work for you. From here, we will come back to the color wheel we have on our sketchbook. We bring back our materials, our color palette, our paper with our squares or grid in it, our jar with water, our rag or paper towel, our brush, and I will go ahead and change the water of my jar because it's fairly dirty right now. So far, we have played with our pure colors and have desaturated them using the toning technique, which is adding gray to them. And now we will work around the same primary colors and we will desaturate them using the muting technique, which is by mixing them with their corresponding complementary color. The difference will be toning offer us those neutral, dusty variants, while muting will desaturate the colors through competition. I'll show you what that means. Only that first we need to make sure to build the complementary colors of each of the colors we are working with. And we learned how to make those and more on another lesson inside the playlist number 1 of this curriculum. So I won't go deep in the steps here, but if you're interested, I will add the link of playlist 1 for you to engage with the information I have to share. So to remember, the complementary of red is green. We can find them on our color wheel as well. And we build this green by mixing equal amounts of yellow and blue, and we will place it right here. We will work now on building the complementary color of yellow, which the complementary of yellow is purple, and we will place it right here. We build it by mixing equal amounts of red and blue. And lastly, we will build the complementary of blue, which is orange, and we will place it right here. We build it by mixing equal amounts of red and yellow. Now that we have all the complementaries already set up on our color palette, we will create our desaturated versions or muted versions of our triadic scheme. And we will start by grabbing the color we intend to work with. In this case is red. We will clean and dry our brush, and we will add its complementary, green. Now, something interesting about this technique is that if we are muting red and we want to make sure our spectators see it as a muted red, we need to add less amount of green than red to preserve the redness. If we add more green than red, it will turn into the opposite, a muted green. And if we add equal amounts, we will end up having a brown. So we will use a smaller amount of green in this case and mix it well. You will see now you have a desaturated red. And if you compare it with the version where you toned it, you can see how it looks completely different. You can still see how red wants to keep shining and screaming, "I am red." Now, I will add a bit more of green to it. When we work with this technique for desaturating our colors, we add the complementary bit by bit to hold control of our mixing and not crossing the line where our color ends up turning the other way around. Now that we have our color ready, we will paint 2 squares using that color. And of course, once we have our squares painted, we clean and dry our brush. Now we will work with yellow and its complementary color, which is purple. And again, we will do this bit by bit. The color still holds the feeling of yellow. Once we are content with our color, we paint 2 squares with it. Then we go ahead and do the same with blue. We will add its complementary, which is orange. And once we are content with our color, we will paint 2 squares with it. when we are done, we clean and dry our brush. Then we cut them. We keep one of those for later, and we will use one to stick it or glue it into our sketchbook. And for that, we will move away our color palette, our water, a rag, and feel free to add our next extended study of the triadic scheme we chose to work with. Add a few notes that will make you remember what was all this about. I find it helpful later on, believe me. Now we will continue with our extended study, and so we will bring our color wheel and all our material back, including our color palette, our rug, our jar filled with water, our paper with the grid, and our brush. I'm actually holding mine in my hands right now. And now we are ready to work on the study we are most proficient in. We have worked on this in previous lessons. Value. That's right. We will be tinting and shading our colors, and we will start with tinting our red. You choose the amount of white you want to use for tinting your red. Then we paint 2 squares with that color. And clean and dry our brush. We will do the same with our yellow. We will add the amount of white we want to work with. Mix it well, paint 2 squares, and of course, clean and dry your brush. Then we do the same with blue. We add the amount of white we want to work with. We mix it well and paint 2 squares with it. And of course, once finished, we will clean and dry our brush. And we are free to go ahead and cut them so we can tape or glue one and keep the other one for later. We will move everything away and place our study underneath our previous one. we will build the space back to work on our next one. We will bring our color wheel back, our color palette, our rag, our jar with water, our brush, and our paper with the grid. And now we are ready to shade our color scheme. We will be adding black to red. Remember we had our value scale study with only black and white? Well, it works the same with color. This is so much fun. I love seeing how this color is turning moody with black. And if you are one of those wondering why am I mixing my shade on top of the tint, please know the red tint is already dry underneath, so it is not affecting my shading work. That's one of the advantages of acrylic, although some acrylics might bleed if you add fresh paint on top. This one doesn't, so I feel free to do it this way when I'm running short of clean space to mix my colors on my color palette. If you need more space, a porcelain or glass dish will do to keep mixing your colors. Once we are happy with our color, we paint two squares and clean and dry our brush. We will keep working with the same flow with our next two colors, yellow and blue. And I'll see you once we have these last steps ready. Once we have these steps ready, it's time to cut our study and stick it onto our sketchbook. And now, so far, we have the full saturated or pure triadic color scheme. We desaturated it using the tone down method, adding gray. Then we study it by desaturating it using the muted method, adding their complementaries. Then explore it with values, we tinted and shaded them. Now we will use everything we've learned to build 3 extended color palettes using the studies we created from our triadic color scheme. For that, We will bring to our table the material we save. A quick note I want to share here is that I believe the magic happens when we truly want to connect with colors and get to know them and how we interact with them. In our last lesson, we played with a baby step exercise on how to extend the color schemes within each harmony by playing with value. By value, I mean tints and shades. And so today we learned desaturation by toning and muting. This is a reminder to be aware of the many possibilities color offers us. So, are you ready to extend our color scheme into palettes? I will give you three short examples, but with the remaining material, I want you to get creative and play more with your options. So let's say that we want to go with a light yellow. Let's place it right here already. A dark blue, so a shade of blue, and a pure red. I will call this color palette A. I will go ahead and glue them. I also want you to start thinking which color pops right away into your eyes when you are looking at these three colors. Which one feels light and which one dark, just by quickly scanning. When I build hierarchy in my color palettes, I always identify the focal color first, the color that immediately attracts attention. Then I choose a supporting color, one that helps guide the viewer's eye towards the focal color. Next comes the lightest color, which is often used for highlights, small details, or to create contrast within the composition. And the foundation color, which is the color I want all the other colors to be sitting on, so it works as the background. That's basically it. In general, a color palette can have more than one focal color, more than one supporting color, more than one light color, and in some cases, more than one foundation color. Sometimes a single color can even play two roles if needed. Ultimately, it all comes down to the choices you make when building your color palette and the relationships you create between the colors. So now that we quickly scanned our colors, in this three color palette, I would say red is a focal color, yellow is the supporting color, and the light color as well. And the shade of blue is my foundation color. There are many ways of building hierarchy when building color palettes, but this is my personal equation I wanted to share with you. I feel is intuitive, simple, and it works. Let's work on a second example, and this one could be a pure yellow. Let me bring this one down a bit. I might need to quickly organize some of the color squares. Mm, that's good. Now, our second color is a shaded blue, and our third one is a dusty red. Let's remember dusty expressions of colors get built by adding gray. This one is our second color palette for our extended study. Quickly scan the palette to identify the focal, supporting, light, and foundation colors. I read these colors as follows. The yellow is the focal color, but it also works as the lightest color, so it plays both roles. The blue is the foundation color, although foundation colors don't always need to be dark. In these two examples, a darker foundation works well. However, a foundation color can also be much lighter. Finally, the dusty red works as the supporting color. And even though these two color palettes are very small in numbers of color, I wanted them to be in our study and exercise of the Triadic color scheme extended color palette because we are learning how to add hierarchy while extending our color scheme to build color palettes that read intentional and full of meaning. These two were baby steps on how to do it. Please know, extended color palettes can have way more colors, so let's go ahead and build one. Plain bold, let's build one that holds more colors. Let's start with a dusty blue, a soft yellow, a muted red, a shaded yellow, a pure red, and a pure yellow. From here, I want you to start scanning the colors and finding which colors could fit where. It's kind of like studying our colors and understanding how the system could work well within the colors we chose. Also know the first colors we choose do not always need to be the colors of the final color palette we will use at the end. We can swap colors until we find the perfect match and the perfect color palette that speaks to your heart. This is just an example. How I read hierarchy here. I would say pure red is a focal color and yellow could work as another focal color. The shaded yellow could work as a supporting color. The muted red could work as another supporting color. The tinted yellow is our light color. And the tone of blue would be the foundation color. And I will call this color palette C. Someone once asked me in college how I choose a background color, the one we've been calling the foundation color here. My answer was something like this. I think of the foundation color as the color that keeps all the other elements in harmony. It allows the other colors to play the roles they need to play, while remaining in the background as a stable base that holds space for the entire design. Some artists prefer their foundation color to play a more active role in shaping or elevating the overall composition, and that can work beautifully too. Personally, though, I usually prefer it to act as a neutral base. In the end, it's all about how we interact with color. We may each discover our own equation. This is simply the one I found through my own exploration. I'm sharing it with you to show that conversations with color are possible and endless. I hope this perspective inspires you to keep exploring with color. I'm going to keep all of this material because it may come in handy later. On the back of each study, I leave a small mark so I can quickly identify it. I mark pure colors with AP, muted colors with MU, tones with TO, tints with T, and shades with SH. I think it's a good idea to keep your studies organized so you always know what materials you have available. And finally, I want to congratulate you. You've come so far in your color studies, and you should feel proud of everything you're learning. I can't wait to see the color palettes you create. I would like to leave you with a thought. Every new color study you create is a new conversation with color. There isn't a perfect color palette waiting to be discovered. There's endless possibilities. And each one you build will teach you something new about the way you see the world. So keep creating, keep taking notes on your sketchbook, allow yourself to stay curious, and don't be afraid to build color palettes that might surprise you. If you like to share your color studies with me, feel free to tag me on Instagram at the Whims of the Heart. I like to see your work. And if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and keep creating with heart. Whenever you're ready, feel free to move on to the next lesson in this curriculum. It's waiting for you.